Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 93 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one podcast in Canada. We're recording on Monday, August 14th, 2017.
I noticed you said Canada there.
Yes, and if everybody read their show notes and did their intros, Tim.
I'm a sports shooter, a father of three, and owner-operator of Tim's Good T-shirts. That makes me Tim. They're quite good, and I'm also a proper-handed descendant of beer-drinking immigrants, and I'm quite angry.
Marty, hunter and sports shooter of rural Southern Ontario.
Matt, I'm American. I care about veterans, my family, doing my part to avoid a degenerate future for my offspring. And a lot of the shit that I've seen lately is only fueling that fire and that desire.
As always, my name is Andrew. I'm a recovering libertarian, a competitive shooter, and a firearms instructor at Ragnarok Tactical. We'd love to hear your feedback about the show. Please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback, or you can email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. You can also subscribe on Stitcher and iTunes, etc., etc. If you haven't figured that out by now, I don't know how you listen to 93 episodes of this show.
They just listen to it from, YouTube, I guess.
All right, and as always, you can check out the podcast at facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast and Instagram at instagram.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast.
We need your help to support the show. Visit www.patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get the uncensored audio version of the show for just $1 per episode, and the more you pledge, the better the rewards are.
All right, let's do. What are we drinking? We'll start with Marty. Marty, what are you drinking?
Sailor Jerry's and Coke Zero.
All right, Matt, what are you drinking?
I'm just laughing because you have to edit it on the notes instead of just fucking saying it. I'm drinking PBR and tall cans of Frosty Bush.
Nice. Tim, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking Rickard's Red.
How much have you had to drink, Tim? I'm curious. Tell our listeners.
I've got 2.5 liters into me.
Oh, shit.
Very angry day.
Damn, how many beers is that?
That's 5
All
tall boys.
Nice. Sounds like
just 3 to go. You got to drink the house dry every night, don't you know?
You don't want it to go bad.
Yeah. I know my dog just moaned. He agrees. Beer going bad is bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people are going to be triggered this episode once we get into some of these topics.
Yeah, some of these are a little triggering. Let's get into the news. I think we've got a. Oh, I lost my jingle, pal. Where'd it go?
Oh, come on with the drops. You dropped your drops.
I found it. All right.
Roll call.
That sounds like something you recorded on VHS back in 1992.
Whatever. It's the same one that we've been using forever because it's free.
I've always wanted to say that.
Well,
it has a charm. It has a certain, something what the French would call a I don't know what.
Tonight on the 10 o'clock news, you're white, you are a racist.
It's true, but also we're going to go to an article from the Financial Post.
Oh, good.
Toronto home sales plunged 40%, the biggest drop since the recession. So this is the largest drop in house sales in Toronto in the last 17 years.
14%. Holy shit.
What? No, 40%.
Oh.
Dude, it's on the notes.
That's even worse.
It's kind of misleading. It's kind of misleading because it's the number of transactions monthly that's dropped 40%. The actual price of homes being sold in Toronto has dropped an average of 4.6% from the previous month.
Tell you, those trans.
Oh, dear God. I'm still shocked at the fucking typical property. The benchmark property price up there is fucking $773,000. Holy fuck! Good night.
The benchmark property price in Toronto is $773,000. Toronto is one of the most expensive cities in North America.
I guess. How do people? What the fuck are people's salaries up there? I mean, how are people affording this shit with a 30-year mortgage? I don't.
Do you mean like taxpayers, or do you mean like CBC people and stuff like that?
I'm convinced that the average person in Toronto who can't actually afford their home, they're just all leveraged. Like everyone carries so much consumer debt that they're just leveraged to the hilt. That no one actually has any money.
Yeah, they're helped out by the banks,
right?
So they're going to be. They're going to be fine.
So, like, we're an upper middle class swipply couple, right? Like, two working adult white people with no kids, and the bank approved us for enough house that it would have literally been 50% of our gross before tax income.
Yeah, that's what happened in Texas.
If we would have gone with the mortgage that they approved us for.
God. Yep.
It's like that's because the bank knows that we're a good investment. We'll pay it back. So it would have literally been one of our like pre-tax paychecks each month.
Right, and then you're mortgage poor basically, and you can't afford guns and wings.
Oh, we would have been super mortgage poor if we would have gone for the full amount that the bank theoretically could have offered us.
Oh, but the Joneses would be so jealous.
I know, right? We have to keep up with the. We have to keep up with the. Oh, there's a pop-up window. Fuck.
The Joneses. You got to keep up with the pop-up windows. You're right. You're absolutely right.
You gotta keep. Never mind. I'm not doing it on your podcast. I'm sorry. Okay.
So
no, but that's insane.
The good news is this is like a significant market correction. So that house that we talked about that was an average now of $773,000 in Toronto, at its peak in April of this year was worth like the same house would have been evaluated as being worth. How they do this evaluation makes no sense, but it would have been valued at $930,000.
So it's more reasonable now.
It's almost getting to a point where the numbers aren't just insane. It's like $1 million does not get you a lot of house in Toronto.
Yeah.
So the thing that we're seeing here though too is that one of the mortgage lenders, the Home Capital Group, collapsed.
Yep. I think you guys are actually going to see an even bigger correction, but I think it's subprime.
Yeah, but that's one of the main driving factors to what we have less transactions this month because you've lost one of the major loan, like mortgage lenders. So yeah, less people are having access to those mortgages that these guys were giving out.
Mortgage lender.
I mean, is it surprising that this mortgage lender was up to fraudulent mortgage activity?
Yeah. But Marty's right. I second that. You buy as much house as your bank will give you a mortgage for, and it's just always going to go up. Good point, Marty.
It can't go anywhere but up. God.
Yeah, it's.
I don't know.
It's one of the things.
There's no down.
Yes, there's been a correction here. I suspect this is very temporary. I don't see this as being like the collapse that we are expecting is going to happen or have to happen at some point.
No,
I think
this is not the bubble bursting. This is a market correction.
No, there's a couple of sort of micro factors here that have led to a drop this month, but I think you're going to see in the next couple months there's going to be this is going to cause a bit of a scare on the market. People might be a little bit more hesitant for the next couple months, but then it's going to be right back to where it was. People are far too dumb to allow this to stop them from leveraging their futures.
I mean, that's a good point. I think in the States we're seeing a similar thing. Not to get much off track, but hear me out. Like they call it like subprime 2.0, mortgage, bubble 2.0 or whatever. The problem is, it's with all of these credit markets, right? Whether these are home loans, fucking auto loans, student loans, there's a limit. Like once you get overextended and you look at the big macroeconomics of it, you look at people's median income, for example, it's like no matter how much credit people use, eventually you literally cannot even pay the bills. You know what I mean? Even if you're a Swipley couple and you've got approved, and you got a wallet full of credit cards, and you're paying more than half your monthly salary on on mortgage. It's like, at some point, it's not going to happen. And all it takes is for one of those Swiftly couples to get laid off, or the car to break, and they don't have any savings to fix it, and they can't go to work.
That's your opinion as an American. Up here in socialist Canada, especially Ontario, we got a shining premier of Ontario who she actually slashed our hydro rates, man. So we're fine. It doesn't matter. Everything that she cut off our bills is going to come back in 3 years with interest. But we're fine. She slashed our hydro bills until the next election is over. So we're fine.
Balance the stupid fucking budget.
Did everyone hear that?
And I'm going to.
Yeah, I heard it.
Everyone just heard George Carlin?
Yeah.
Okay, so my tumor is still
Yeah, he was talking about
still inactive. Okay. I'm not hearing
so
voices.
I'm gonna try and do this from memory. So if it's wrong, stop writing random messages into us complaining. But I think it was the debt to income ratio for Canadians at this point. And I think from what I saw, the current debt to income ratio for Canadians is significantly higher than what the U.S. had when they had their financial collapse back in 2008, 2009 with the housing market. So like we're sitting in a very similar situation, actually, worse off than what the Americans were at that time, and is basically just waiting for it to collapse for us.
Yeah,
and we no longer have an economist running our country, right? That's at least when we had a global recession, we had an economist running the country, so things were relatively stable. Now we have a drama teacher, so everything will be dramatic.
Yeah,
we went through that same recession. Basically, when the U.S. goes down, it takes everybody else with them.
Yeah, we went from invest in stocks to look at my socks.
All right, let's transition. I got one more.
It was a good joke, but you ruined it on the flood.
Well, I blame the beer. I
got one more thing, and then we can move on.
Slash it.
You're like a kid with his new toy.
No? All right. Let's do the next one.
Drop slut.
Yeah. Well, I like that I can do drops now. This comes to us from the National Post. Already criticized for its look and price tag, Calgary public art piece draws First Nations ire. So if it wasn't already a $500,000 piece of crap, now they've upset the Indigenous peoples. And we all know how that's going to go.
I think the Indigenous peoples are upset that they didn't choose an Indigenous artist, that they could get this free money.
Yeah. The normal ire just didn't cut it. Now we got First Nations ire.
Well, here's what I don't understand.
That's right.
So
extra ire.
These Canadians and liberals in general, they tend to be like, oh, bring in, we got to, be friendly to all these First Nation people. We got to care about their feelings. Oh, let's bring in as many refugees and Muslims and all kinds of people as possible. But then you read this article by some liberal, writer, and it's like, by New York artist. We don't need your New York art up here in Canada. It's such elitist nonsense. It's like, reminds me of, who was that Miller that had that argument at the White House press briefing with like that idiot from CNN? And he's like, you sound like such a cosmopolitan. How dare you, you're assuming that just because we want people to speak English when they come here, they have to be white from England or someplace else. It's such a cosmopolitan argument, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's the same thing here. It's like, it's just complete inconsistency. They want to be welcome to everything, but not a New York artist. God forbid.
No, but a New York artist who's like a 60-year-old white dude.
True. I guess.
This guy's name is Del Geist.
Oh, he ever got
government money?
They're calling me.
Wow. Even the naming on this. Like the name doesn't make sense. The Beaufort Towers, like what is this thing?
Okay,
it's supposed to be a sculpture.
I will comment on the New York thing. I agree in the way let's not get a New York artist. Like, hey, we're already paying for these guys' salary because they're guaranteed. An artist in Canada is living off the system. So at least if we can give the money to that guy, that's one less like person that the taxpayers are paying off of social assistance. And so if we're going to give away money to random artists, at least give it to someone that we can get someone off the social assistance.
So apparently this is like what this guy does, because he's been making displays, I hesitate to call it art, like this for 40 years. And it's like 12 I-beams that are stuck in the ground like posts that have rocks on them.
Yeah, and they are ugly.
Like, go look at the photos of this thing.
I understand that art is like a subjective thing, but like, yeah, this thing is fucking ugly. And
but
it
not only
no
that,
sense.
like we got the ugliest. Like I've looked at his other pieces, and like as much as they are just like beams of steel with like rocks on them, like we got the ugliest. Like
Beams and rocks.
Yeah, we got the ugliest beams and rocks. They like basically look like.
Yeah, like this is
it looks like something out of a war zone.
Yeah, that's actually what this reminds me of, is bombed out buildings. That's what this looks like to me.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, the Syrians will feel right at home. But
yeah,
I wanted to say, like, this guy is an artist. It's just he's a con artist.
No, absolutely. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's the art form.
Nice.
The art form is to like laugh as he gets paid so much money to do this crap, you know. And
$500,000.
I mean,
I
how
wonder
much?
what an I-beam costs.
That's what I was gonna say.
A couple $100 a pop.
Steel,
$1,000
no,
maybe.
steel is cheap. Steel is cheap.
I feel
can
like
go
if
get,
Sean
like-
was here, he could answer these questions for
I
us.
can get like just me at retail. Like you can get like.
You want an I-beam? I can get you an I-beam by
I can get
$3.
you an I-beam. You don't wanna know.
On it.
Now is that knockoff Chinese steel, or is it the good stuff?
No, I can get. This is like good steel. Like this is like a 2-inch square tube. Like that's all I know from building trailers and like when I worked on my trailer. Like it's just 2-inch square tube, like 1/8-inch wall, like 6-foot length, and you get like 6 of them and a bunch of other off pieces. And the guys are just like, oh, just give us 2 20s for the coffee fund.
Well,
I feel like these might be slightly more expensive, but yeah, this is not $500,000 worth of.
That's what I said. The guy's he's an artist. He's a con artist. He sold this stupid mystique, and these people out in Calgary with this money, they got to feel special being near this artist for a little bit, and they spent good tax money on this project. Like you might as well.
The one reason I'm using this National Post article, because there's a couple pretty decent articles about this piece of nonsense that was built, was specifically the comment from Adrian Stinson, who's apparently a local Indigenous artist in that area of Alberta. And his commentary was that the municipality needs to do a better job of vetting art projects. My counter argument would be, why is the municipality doing art? Shouldn't you be building my roads and funding my schools? And not putting up stupid I-beams.
Yeah, I'm really like of all of us, I'm the most liberal. Like we all say this. Oh, there's Tim, the liberal, and I always say like,
yes, we all say that.
Yeah, and I as the most liberal of us, I would just like to say art is a faggy hobby. It's not a business.
All right, let's this.
So we need to talk about why are the natives upset about this art piece, besides it being expensive and ugly? What we touched on.
Well, because they weren't involved in it, and you might make the argument that it looks kind of like a native burial platform, and they didn't get the approval of the local natives.
No.
Yes.
Stop.
So apparently, they've.
No, we might not.
You know what? If it was a native burial platform, if it was a native burial platform,
we are white. The natives have to make that argument.
No,
and they did.
If he was appropriating the native burial platform, it would have been he would have dug a ditch and thrown a bunch of empty liquor bottles in it and put carbs.
Sakes.
Matt, those are
I feel like I'm
thoughts.
gonna have to edit that.
This is Canada, man.
I mean, I was not aware that the traditional natives were using welded steel construction method, but I guess this is one more thing we stole from the natives.
They invented it, and they had electricity and arc lights, and all kinds of stuff back in the day in their wampum huts and whatever.
Look at me.
You trying to say they was Kangs?
Look at me.
They was Kangs.
I'm the fabricator now.
Every beam he fabricates.
Oh, this is all
an
getting
eagle
dropped.
feather.
No, taking all of
It's
this
going to be a
out.
20-minute episode.
Wait, can you not say natives are generally alcoholics and die in ditches or?
No, there's hate speech laws up here, man.
You can say that all you want, but
Yeah.
I'm not putting it in the edited version of the show. This is on YouTube forever, which I mean will still come up in litigation. But
Yeah. Say what you will about Andrew, like we roll live up here.
Well, but
And listed.
here's the thing.
Live and listed.
Here's the thing. I said it, and I'm in America, and I'm an American.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna paint like a, war paint
So
on my
the
face. and
views
put a
of Matt the
headdress on.
American do not represent the podcast or the rest of its members.
That's fair.
Necessarily.
Necessarily.
I think that's what I'm gonna do as Halloween this
Allegedly.
year. I'm gonna go as a drunk
quick enough on the
Canadian.
drop.
I'm gonna go as
So-
a drunk Canadian native.
Anyway, that's so anyway, the natives did point out that it looks a lot like a burial scaffold or whatever they call it. But anyway, the crazy woman who's somehow got in charge of tax money for the city of Calgary, she was saying that it's part of a gateway, and maybe the whole art project will look a lot more, like it'll look a lot more finished.
Gateway.
Yes. Sorry, I'm dropping my T's tonight. When they finish the other side of the gateway, and they're going to build 3 big round hills for another $500,000. That will complete the
What do you
gate.
think tap water is? It's a gay bomb, baby.
Thanks, Alex.
They don't even have all dressed chips in that shithole.
We all have drops. All right,
So they're going to pay these people more. End of story. Like, this is a scam artist on display, and it just shows how idiots, like the people that are spending taxpayer money. I mean, I don't understand how it can become so stupidity there, but whatever.
People are idiots.
Yeah, what they
So
need.
again, it goes back to Andrew's comment though. Is just why is the government in charge of spending money on art? Like there's no, this is not a valid use of taxpayer dollars.
No.
To put up this kind of bullshit in the middle of a highway. Like if communities want to have like an art project, then the community can raise the funds and put it up themselves. They can do that through donations within their community.
Yeah,
You're relying on people to have a lot of agency. It's a lot better if we just outsource all of this to the government.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, nobody thinks funny joke is funny. Fine. All right, moving on. Let's talk about guns for the army. Got an article from the Ottawa Citizen. Canadian Forces small arm replacement won't receive funding
that's
for another
weird.
3 years. Beer?
I just said no. This is a beer. Yeah, no, I was listening to you though.
Yeah. Canadian Forces small arms replacement won't receive funding for another 3 years. I have mixed feelings about this. I don't feel that we need to be replacing the C7, C8 rifles. I think that we probably need to be starting the procurement process if other NATO countries are going to be going through replacing their small arms so that, we match with NATO, particularly if the Americans select a new intermediate cartridge and stop using 5.56. Because there is a push in the States with the new XM. I don't know what the product number is off the top of my head. Whatever the new experimental rifle product is they're working with is like in 6.5 Grendel and a couple other oddball calibers.
Experimental.
So-
We got to get
Well,
those
sounds
to our
like
front line.
Sounds like it's going 7.62 by 51.
That's what I thought.
There was
but-
definitely a couple of rifles that were looking at bringing back 7.62 by 5.1, but those would no longer be intermediate cartridges, which is not what the Canadian small arms replacement is looking at, because they're looking at sticking with a intermediate series cartridge, not a battle rifle caliber.
Correct. Now, and the other thing I want to point out too with the U.S. replacement is the contract that everyone's talking about is only for 50,000 rifles, so it's not going to be a broad replacement. It sounds like they're still going to be sticking with 5.56 for the most part, at least in the short term.
Yeah, I think a lot of
the 7.62 is probably going to be like just for, like, let's say Afghanistan deployments are going to switch over for if you're going over there where you need the longer range.
Yeah. Afghanistan, or a lot of times, a lot of the guys that end up going into the soft units will run a little bit more caliber because they know, they got the skill to reach further anyway. But
yeah.
I know what's interesting to me as an American that also understands intimately, federal procurement, is they talk about, the project is in the identification phase and is not expected to be assigned resources for 3 years. So what it sounds like is they're doing market research and not necessarily development, because most of the stuff's probably commercial off the shelf. When you're talking about night vision and firearms and shit, there might be some R&D in terms of target acquisition systems, but it seems like there's a long period of time in Canada when it comes to figuring out what you even want before they'll even fund it. And I don't know how Canada funds its appropriations. In the States, we have appropriation law. Oh, ours is funded annually, by fiscal year. There's some budgets
I think,
yeah.
If you're talking about rocks and I-beams, we just go whole fucking hog and we just hand shit out
5 years of funding.
We throw it from our Priuses up here.
I got you.
But if it's something like let's say our armed forces members are dying in training exercises in helicopters for decades, then we just drag that shit on forever. So
it varies. So Matt, I can't get new equipment.
Yeah, one of the main things is basically push everything to after the next election. So everything is a promissory, so that people vote for you, so that they can get the shit that you promised.
Okay. Who has the power?
Which is a big deal on this.
Parliament?
Technically, it's the Queen and right, but yes, Parliament for practical purposes.
See, I'm actually I don't want to nerd out too much, but I'm interested in some of this shit. But anyway, yeah, man, appropriations law is crazy when you think about it, because really it's the machinations of the tax money being spent, of the theft, the stolen money being spent.
And that's what I mean. I'm conflicted about this one, because there's nothing wrong with the C7, C8 for 90% of what we ask the end user of the C7, C8 platform rifle. So those are like our M16, M4 rifles. Mm-hmm. It's a Canadian designation for the same thing. Almost the same thing. The technical data package is slightly different, but for all intents and purposes, the C7 is an M16. Right? There's nothing wrong with our C7s. They work fine. They probably could all go through another midlife upgrade, because we're on the 3rd iteration. We could probably do with another factory restoration for all the rifles in service. But there's nothing wrong with them for what we do with them 90% of the time. The 10% of the time that we don't have the right tool is the same problem that the Americans have in Afghanistan, which is why they're talking about using the 7.62 by 5.1 rounds off of an M14 platform. You just don't have the punch to go through certain hard cover or the distances that are involved for certain engagements. But those are edge cases. Delaying this for 3 years, probably not that bad. My concern is that our procurement process when we got the C7s was a 15-year process.
For a rifle?
Yeah. So we went from using the FN-FAL to using the C7, and that took 15 years to get them fully fielded.
How many
what's up, Marty?
people compete? Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt Marty either. Go ahead.
Yes. So my question here is okay, we're going to replace the C7 with another caliber, or another 5.56 caliber rifle. So what deficiency in the C7 are they hoping to improve upon? It seems like it's a pretty well-proven platform that I've not heard of any issues with in terms of ergonomics or in terms of anything else. What are we replacing it with, and what are we trying to improve with this replacement?
That's what I mean.
The AR platform, or not the AR platform, but the Armalite style rifle, that's been going almost 50 years now.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, there's nothing wrong with
this.
Like, we're on the C7A3 now with the gunfighter upgrades. So it's like a different charging handle, basically. Okay, so let's just make it the C7A4, put a different collapsible buttstock on it, give it a better trigger, give it a better pistol grip, and we've already got a flat top rail. Let's take off that stupid front sight and allow them to have some better choices for optics instead of... Actually, you know what? I take that back. Let's just get rid of that stupid triangle post front sight so it's out of the way of that L-can, because the C79 L-can is a fantastic sight for the money.
Yeah. Like, to me, I would be more interested in, say, like, you know, looking at a new generation round, like, you know, maybe changing like the bullet weight and perhaps maybe you have to change the twist rate of the barrel or something like that. But maybe just like an update to what we currently have. I can't see doing a different platform at this point if you want to stay.
Well, and that's what I'm saying.
Like, to me,
let's go with we'll call it the C7A4. Change out the barrel, put it in. I think it's already 1 in 7, but I could be wrong. Put in a 62 grain or a 70 grain bullet. Like, let's put a heavier bullet in there, keep using 5.56, and let's start issuing PMags with it instead of those stupid metal mags that we've got, which are still better than the thermal plastic mags that it came with, but the metal mags are not amazing. So let's issue some PMags and put on a free floating forend and call it a day.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's one thing I haven't seen in any of these articles is basically what they're hoping to address with this new rifle. And maybe that's what this is going to be, but I just haven't seen anything.
Well, they got to make one of their buddies rich, you know, like who owns... How many businesses, or well, how many manufacturers competed for the, what was it, the C7?
It's sole sourced to Colt Canada, formerly Dymaco, Kitchener, Ontario.
So, as part of the procurement process, the
like higher dollar amounts.
Perhaps this will change with this new one, but they must be manufactured in Canada here, and so that basically we only really have Colt Canada, so that can actually.
Colt Canada is our government
manufacturer at these. Yeah, they're the only one that can actually manufacture at the quantities required. So it normally it's just single source to them.
I got you. Yeah,
we just
have the right justifications to sole source.
Yeah, but it's nothing to complain about. Like Colt Canada is fairly legendary.
They make good stuff. Like look at the new Ranger rifle.
Oh yeah.
Larry Vickers.
It's a Tikka rifle that's being made in Canada, essentially, right?
It's the same. Is it
a Seiko? Same difference. One of those awesome Nordic rifles. You might be right.
Larry Vickers loves the Colt Canada stuff. So like. That's good enough for me.
It is good quality stuff, and that's what I'm saying. Like maybe it's time for another midlife upgrade, not a whole new rifle. But it doesn't matter because it's going to be the next government's problem. In the meantime, we've got people on the pointy end that don't have the right tools.
Now, one thing I found interesting in here is the author of the article talking about the U.S. Adopting potentially a 7.62 round, or at least somewhere between 5.56 and 7.62 round. Their quote is that if successful, the new rifle and round combination would give U.S. troops a weapon they can carry about the same number of rounds as the current 5.56, but with greater range and accuracy in their firepower, with little change in weight. I don't know where they got that information from, but if you're going to move from the same number of rounds of 5.56 to the same number of rounds of 7.62, your rifle and your number of rounds weighs quite a bit more. That's not
right. And I think this is probably an ill-informed journalist, this David Pugley's guy, probably not really understanding what's going on. But if they use, say, 300 blackout, you can get close to the same number of rounds of 300 blackout as you could with 5.56. The bullets weigh about
but 300 blackout doesn't give you any increased range at all.
Right, but you can't go to 7.62 and still call it an intermediate caliber.
Yeah.
Unless you go to something like 7.62 by 3.9 or 7.62 by whatever 300 blackout is.
Yep.
Right, but that's what I mean. Like that would be an intermediate caliber 7.62 round. Would be 7.62 by 3.9. 7.62 by 5.1 is a battle rifle round.
Yeah, but I think these journalists are just doing like a magazine capacity and going, well, they can still carry the same amount of rounds on the gear, but like they're not taking into account like round weight. which is significant. Like if you take 12 boxes
and
of
that's why
308s, stick them in your pockets, and go you run around a field for a while. Like it's kind of that weight is noticeable. But,
Yeah, you better
that's
have a
why I
belt on
mentioned
it,
some of the
those pants
projects that the
coming down.
Americans are working on with 300 Blackout and 6.5 Grendel and some of the other 223 parent case combo stuff that's going on with the development in the States. Is it will probably be something that uses a 223 bolt face and 223 magazines, but it's maybe not a 223 bore any longer.
yeah, but they've been doing like small arms testing for like over a century now, and doesn't it always come down to about 26 caliber being like perfect, the perfect compromise?
Yeah, between 22 caliber and 6mm seems to be about the sweet spot.
I think a little heavier, like a 6.5.
Yeah, personally, I think like a 6 or 6.5 is kind of a good.
Oh yeah, don't get me
option.
wrong. Like I think a 6er and a 6.5, that would be
in terms of giving
like,
you increased distance, right?
You could run it linked in a machine gun. You could run it in a DMR with a heavier bullet. You can run it in a squad automatic with a lighter bullet. Like there's a lot of choices in that caliber range, and they all stay in the intermediate series. You don't have to worry about like full size battle rifle rounds. But anyway, now that we've gotten all autistic about calibers, let's do Canadian gun news. We've got a change to a company that I love to hate, or a company that some people actually like. Northeastern Arms has been acquired by Black Creek Labs.
You also like to hate people that like that company, though.
I have very mixed feelings about Northeastern Arms. I like that we have an AR that's made in Canada.
You'd
I
like
like
to
that
like
it's
them.
not ITAR. The price point is not unreasonable for what it is.
Yeah, it's
But
inexpensive.
God, their customer service can be terrible.
It's their quality control, I'd say, that's the rough point.
The quality control and the customer service are the two sticky wickets for me. So, apparently Black Creek Labs is a boutique Canadian defense contractor with experience in aerospace and aluminum machining, and they have decided to buy Northeastern Arms. So everything that's NEA is getting blown out. There's been some deals. SFRC, the ammo source, has been clearing out their existing inventory. So everything will be rebranded under Black Creek Labs, and coming up in a couple months at IWA Outdoor Classic in Germany. So that's the European version of SHOT Show. They're expected to announce new product lines at IWA. So we'll see what they come out with.
Yeah,
NEA has gotten rid of a lot of other things that they used to make.
They also bought
Is this-
a sub-supplier, so one of the foundries or something like that for NEA. So they basically bought some of their metal suppliers as well.
Is there any news if this is going to cripple Canada's space program?
I think our space agency is secure with Mark Garneau. No, who's the current... who's the astronaut that runs our... He's the transportation minister now. It's not Mark Garneau. Who is it?
It's Ralph Goodale.
Nope. That's the safety minister.
Not that one.
What do you guys even send into space?
No, it is Mark Garneau. Mark Garneau is the current Minister of Transport.
Canadian stuff, Matt, like poutine and beavers.
Do you even have any spaceports, or do you like send all your shit through Kazakhstan and Florida and Houston?
No, we ship it all to Florida. You guys lift it into space.
Yeah.
Oh, so we at least get a cut, you know.
It costs way too much.
We slip you some all-dressed chips.
Yeah, man. Dude, so
All right, so
Launch the
these guys being a
one question I have about this is where do you guys think? Do you think this is going to change? Like right now, NEA is pretty consumer focused, but obviously Black Creek Labs is not right now. Do you think that they're going to maintain sort of a consumer focus from, or do you think they're just basically going to use NEA's manufacturing capabilities to, let's say, example, make a run at a contract that we just discussed?
That's what I think is going to happen. But
There is a strong possibility based on these guys being an existing defense contractor
Yep.
that this is an opportunity to get the tooling that they need to make a run at next generation small arms for the Canadian Forces.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's nothing that says Colt Canada has to be the arsenal. It's just de facto they're the only one, like they're the only game in town right now.
And what do you think that's going to do to NEA's customer service?
Okay, so once upon a time, NEA got into a lot of trouble and stopped doing customer relations directly and outsourced it all to SFRC. Because SFRC was good at dealing with people, and NEA was theoretically good at machining aluminum. I'm not passing judgment on them right now, but I mean, like in theory, that's what they were supposed to be good at, right? So they outsourced all of their customer service to the ammo source to focus on building rifles. They took back their customer service role, and from my firsthand anecdotal experience, they're not especially good at it. So I don't know what these Black Creek Labs guys are like. There's very, very little information about them on the internet.
It wouldn't surprise me if these guys already have like some inside connections in their like they shut down the commercial altogether.
I would actually be really shocked if they shut down the commercial, because Colt Canada did the opposite. Colt Canada said, we're really good at building rifles, and we accidentally built too many rifles. We should sell them retail.
Well, yeah.
That was not like Colt's original, Dymaco, Colt Canada, what have you. That wasn't part of their original business model. They had an overrun on, if I'm not mistaken, a Danish contract, which is why we have the CA 18.6 and CA 20s, or SA 18.6 and SA 18.20. Yeah, that's the right letters. SA.
SA.
Yeah. So we had those as a result of an overrun on a military contract for another country, and they decided that rather than lose all of that money, they would just make semi-auto receivers and sell them to the public. And it went like gangbusters for them, because everyone wanted to buy a Made in Canada Colt with the Canadian Maple Leaf roll mark, because it looked like a C7. Like, it's as close as a C7 as you can get without taking an oath of enlistment.
There you go. Well, I will see what happens. I mean, I think either way, they're definitely going after some federal contracts, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if they're. I mean, honestly, like, this is a side effect, sort of, but I think with their background in some sort of, you said, space type shit, machining, I assume that means the quality control issues. They'll probably have people in there that are like, the nerdy types that are like perfectionists and stuff like that.
That's my hopeful as well. I think I would think that they should be able to get the quality control, taken care of, and really make it a good value line here in Canada.
Yeah, it'd be really cool if they had guys go in there and like, yeah. What?
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk all over you.
No, I was just gonna briefly say, yeah, it'd be really cool. Kind of hint at the future or a preview of like they come in and all of a sudden they make at least like, come out with a new lower, and it's like, or just some new parts. And you can just see the difference instantly or something. That'd be pretty cool, because that wouldn't take them that long to kind of revamp.
Yeah, they take that sign off the wall. It says, "It has been 3 days since a bolt has been returned." We are now entering liter 3.
Hey, I'd be happy even if they learn how to anodize so that it's black.
Yeah.
All right, let's do the main topic, such as it is. It's really news, but I can find a couple articles to be a main topic. We're going to talk about this for a few minutes. It's regarding the Canadian Firearms Advisory Council. And apparently the Minister of Public Safety, or at least the Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety, feels that it would be insensitive and inappropriate to require a survivor of the Polytechnique shootings to work with firearms in order to serve on the Canadian Firearms Advisory Council. Well, we agree that members of the Canadian Firearms Advisory Council should be well informed about firearms safety, training, and licensing. We respectfully believe that there is more appropriate means to achieve it. people that the government's going to asking for input on how firearms laws should work in our country, but they haven't gone through the process to actually see what's required of the average Canadian to get their firearms license. The thing that the government, the same government that's making a statement saying this would be inappropriate, says that this is what a Canadian needs to go through in order to obtain a firearms license. The level of hypocrisy here is over 6 gorillion.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna have somebody, from the Eco Polytechnic thing, one thing I noticed is that, wasn't there like the brother of one of the victims of this that like basically
Claude
came out
Colgan.
saying that like if they had the rights to like the means to defend themselves and advocating for concealed carry. Seems like that guy has not been selected to be on this advisory council.
It's feminism and stuff. He is not a victim or something. I don't really... We've talked about the Canadian Firearms Advisory Council before and the people they've selected. It's a person who was in the school when... What's that asshole's name?
Garby?
I don't want to call him Mark Le Pen. What's his actual name?
Gamil Garby.
Is it Gamil Garby?
Gamil Garby. Are you talking about the son of the Algerian immigrant who used to beat his wife when she would make spelling mistakes?
Yeah,
Gamil Garby.
That's the guy.
Yeah, change his name to Mark Le Pen. That's the one we're thinking about.
Yeah, I refuse to call him Mark Le Pen. We're calling him
Garby.
Okay.
We're calling him by his given name, not his French adopted name. Because fuck that. So, because Natalie Provost was in a building that he shot up where he killed people, apparently that makes her qualified to dictate firearms laws in our country.
Was she actually hit by a round, or like she directly in the room, or just in the building and I'm just wondering, because I'm wondering if it's like her defense is like a traumatic PTSD type situation.
Somewhere there will be someone ringing on the internet and send us hate mail and correct me. I believe that she was in the building. I don't believe she was in a room where anyone was shot or killed. I am very confident she was not herself injured during the shooting. But she has made it her mission in life since the École Polytechnique shooting in, when was that, 1989? 1988?
Yeah, 1989.
She has made it her professional adult career being involved in gun control in Canada.
It's too bad.
Is there good money in that?
Well, yes, because our government pays them.
Oh, okay.
What does she actually do? Is she a member of a parliament, or is she some sort of? Is that how you get on this committee?
The Firearms Committee.
She's she's a member of the Canadian Firearms Advisory Committee under our current government, which was formed last year. The current iteration of the Canadian Firearms Advisory Committee. Prior to that, my understanding is she's an engineer, but she spent most of her time consulting for the Coalition for Gun Control, which is Wendy Sukier's group.
Natalie Provost was in the room with Mark Le Pen. She was injured. So she was one of the ones who were wounded when he opened fire.
And while I sympathize, even in my drunken state, with victims of the shooting, I really don't think they're going about the corrective action correctly. But
yeah, I don't know. I sympathize, but why is she, if she is so active about guns and shit like that, why is she not willing to handle one or be around one or to learn more about them as in terms of
we don't even know her stance that she's not willing to do this. This is coming from the public safety minister who the committee reports to.
That's
his press secretary
is Godale, right?
That's Ralph Godale, yes. Yeah. That's Tim. Drunk Tim is right.
That sounds like fucking misogyny. He's trying to mansplain and protect her. And virtue signal and protect her just because she's a woman.
You're right. Don't you dare talk to our professional victim. I'm not even going to allow you to do that.
Yeah.
Because that's why we hired her. So I can hold her up every time. Every time there's a challenge like this, I can hold her up as a victim.
And let's
because government.
This is obvious. If this person, I mean, they went through this horrid experience. Absolutely, they've been traumatized for life. If they're that, the PTSD kind of thing that they can't even be in the same room as a deactivated firearm, that's understandable. But that also, that disqualifies them from being on the Firearms Advisory Council. That disqualifies them from being able to give a reasoned opinion on firearms law and firearms in this country.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
I'm only playing
if she's compelled, like a compulsion. If she has a compulsion to avoid this stuff, then she's unfit, possibly to.
I'm just to play devil's advocate. Yeah, I would agree with that, but also the other way to look at it is, okay, fair enough. You have like a survivor of a shooting on the committee, but then you got to have at least like a few other people that are gun advocates, that are professionals, maybe competitive shooters, hunters, that kind of shit.
You want to see the
breakdown? No, let's have the
this?
opposite. Why don't we have like an Ian Thompson who successfully defended his life with a firearm?
Perfect. Exactly. Yeah.
Ian Thompson would be a great candidate for this, but we don't have that. We have one professional firearms user on the Firearms Advisory Committee. We have an Olympic level athlete, Linda Kajiko. I don't know. She's a Pan Am's game medalist. She shoots air pistol. Her competitive discipline is air pistol, not real pistol. Air pistol. The only other person that you could make an argument for on this committee is there's a police chief from Saskatchewan, and there's a guy that hunts.
I was gonna say, I'm like, there's a Ducks Unlimited. Ducks Unlimited president, James Ernest.
Is it Ernest or Ernst?
I thought his name was Ernest.
It's spelt Ernest, but go for it. I mean, I don't really care.
Sorry,
not my name.
I'm drunk. Do you remember?
Right.
We got an
outdoorsman and waterfowl hunter.
Yeah.
This isn't a professional firearms user. This isn't a competitive firearms user. This is a guy who shoots game birds. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but again, this is not a fair and balanced representation of people either for or against firearms use, and it's certainly not a group of people that are qualified to talk about why firearms should or should not be prohibited, or whether they fit certain classifications, or recommending those classifications to our government.
I wonder if anybody on this committee knows what a bolt carrier group is. Honestly, even the duck hunter, like.
Possibly. I mean, we don't know if he's only a duck hunter, but possibly. Now, again, like, what we're asking, what this petition is asking is that they've gone through the process of getting their firearms license. This is not it's a time-consuming, onerous process, but it doesn't require you to be an avid shooter and stuff like that. Like, this is just the basic level. This is like having a group of people whose jobs it is to determine what the transportation laws are in this country, and the group doesn't even have driver's licenses.
Boom. Yeah.
That's the exact analogy, Marty.
Like, it's just it's ridiculous.
It's like if someone were to make the sex ed curriculum for Ontario and they'd never had two fists up their asshole.
It's also that.
Yeah.
Or they weren't under investigation for pedophilia. Is that guy's, was it pedophilia that guy was? Does Matt know what we're talking about? Matt, open those eyes.
My eyes are open. I'm just looking down at the
Wasn't it? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? There was a guy involved in the creating the curriculum for the Ontario school system of sex education. He was charged with pedophilia or something like that, or was it child pornography?
Oh, you're saying that there was degenerates in the government? I'm shocked.
Liberal government. Allegedly.
The only place for degenerates is in the helicopter.
In the doorway.
Head up
I
country.
mean, obviously the situation's not hilarious.
All right, I don't have anything else for this. This is stupid. If you're going to advise the government about the firearms laws in our country, you should at least have a basic grasp of the firearms laws in our country. And there's no better way to do that than taking the same test that legal firearms owners are required to take. So take the goddamn test.
And again, this is one of those things where, like, I guarantee you, if they were to have this group of people, like a bunch of government people that were going to like do the PAL course, you know damn well they're not gonna have to like sign up and try and find a random PAL course in their area with an instructor. They're gonna get a special course. They're gonna get fast tracked through it. They're gonna be walked through it. They're gonna be given
just
the
like
answers.
Blaney did
They're
it'll be exactly like Blaney did when they got the gun licenses for the public safety minister under the previous conservative government.
Yeah.
It'll be a photo
It's
op.
paid time in their
CBC
office
will
of
be
somebody
there
who paid
taking
that.
pictures of them handling the random duck gun, and they're going to be accelerated through the wait period. They're going to be prioritized at the the CFO kind of thing, and there'll be a cakewalk for these people.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the
So this
impression
is like-
that they're going to get of like, oh well, that was such an easy process. Why are people complaining about having to do this?
Yeah, this is
So
stupid.
just because I never like to leave a tangent unfinished. I got the intern to look into that, and there was Benjamin Levin, a man who was once Ontario's Prime Minister of Education, pled guilty in 2015 March to 3 child pornography related charges in a Toronto court. That's what I was referring to. I knew that was in there. Thanks, alcohol. You found it in my brain. So he pled guilty to writing child pornography, counseling a person to commit sexual assault, and possession of child pornography. So that was the guy who had a
child
hand.
pornography?
Yeah. You've never read a child pornography novel? I thought you were Dutch.
I got nothing on that one.
Anyway, that's what I was referring to anyone out there who's a fan of my tangents upon tangents. But anyway, don't we have show notes? There they are.
We do. I'm just looking to see if we have any iTunes feedback. I don't think we do, but I'm just double checking.
Yeah, so like
No, it looks like we have no iTunes feedback.
But that was just funny because like we were talking about like someone who was on the Canadian Firearms Safety Advisory Board or whatever, and they don't even want to take the whatever. And here's someone who I believe had a hand in writing the Ontario curriculum for sex education, and he had to pled guilty to 3 counts of child pornography. So there we go, a real expert. We're lucky to have him.
We're something.
Ontario.
All right, Marty, where can people find the show?
Facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast.
I'm not sure if that's a question or not, but you're right.
Top podcast.
All right. Or feedback at Canadian Patriot Podcast, and let us know what you think.
That works too. Tim, where
I had to quickly dart back to the show notes there.
You can find me at timsgoodtshirts.ca. I'm going to have 2 new t-shirts launching shortly. So you can also find me on facebook.com/timsgoodtshirts. Like that page and get ready. There's going to be some Canadian content showing up soon.
Right on. Matt, are you still there?
I'm back now. Oh, fucking internet.
Where can people find you on the internet?
Labor Death Podcast. We're on.
Oh, this is terrible. I'm going to get you to do that all again.
Choppy.
we lost
He's
him.
choppy.
Well, we'll give Matt a second. I'll see if I can fix this later, but I think Matt's internet is dead. It's bad when Marty's got the best internet of the group.
Yeah, it's been upgraded.
Marty, your internet was awesome today.
Yeah, it's the first time
Anyway.
on the new internet. It's did we just get Matt back?
Dude, that's my internet's pissed me off. But yeah, so yeah, you can find us on Facebook.com/Litter Podcast. We're on iTunes, Podcast Republic, Twitter. We have a website, but we're so damn busy. Still working on that. And you'll see charity shoots and other events as they come up. But that's where we're at.
Yeah, you gotta like those pages, Matt, don't you? Because sometimes you and Tyler will do the far right cooking show, and you've got to get in there. You got to watch that show when it's live, or Facebook will take it down within the 20 hours.
Why did Cooking Time with Tyler disappear this week?
Zuckerberg!
All right. As always, my name is Andrew. You can find all my work on everydaytactical.com. Come and train and do some gun stuff with me. RagnarokTactical.ca. We just did a CQB operator course this past weekend. It was a good time. We have a pistol course coming up in September. Come and get your gun skills on. If you want to get in touch with the show, we've got a website, CanadianPatriotPodcast.com, or on Facebook, Facebook.com/CanadianPatriotPodcast. I have to apologize to Rod Giltack. I'm afraid we just couldn't fit anything in with the CCFR tonight. For all of our listeners out there in podcast land, I'd like to remind you that you are the true North, strong and free.